It's Wednesday, April 2nd, 2025. As usual, I'm in a locker room of my office building on the fourth floor, and I'm going to read this interesting article just from Yahoo News, and it was applied by AP. And the title is Paul House, who spent 2 decades on Tennessee's death row before he was freed, has died. So it's a little bit strange, right? You are freed, but you died. Travis Lawler, Tuesday, April 1st, 2025. So it was written about 1 day ago, 3-minute read. Orbit Paul House, file Paul Gregory House, 46, who was on death row for 22 years after being convicted in 1986. So that means he was convicted in 24, right? When he was 24, of murdering Carolyn Muncie in East Tennessee, hoisted his drink after seeing a Free Paul House shirt worn by Stacey Rector, executive director of the Tennessee Coalition to Abolish State Killing. After his release from prison custody at the Lois Debris Special Needs Facility Wednesday, July 2nd, 2008, in Nashville, Tennessee. So he was released in 2008, I think, 26 years, right? So he lived free again for 17 years. Paul Gregg House, who spent 2 decades on Tennessee's death row before he was finally freed and later campaigned against the death penalty, died on March 2nd at the age of 63, according to his longtime attorneys. Mr. House's innocence was indefatigably championed by his attorneys and by his mother, Joyce House. A statement from Federal Defender Services of Eastern Tennessee reads. So that's good expression, right? This one. A statement reads, right? A statement from Federal Defender Services of Eastern Tennessee reads. That's good expression, right? Although Mr. House spent far too many years wrongly convicted and facing execution, he was able to spend 17 years after his release with Joyce and his other family, right? He died peacefully with the knowledge that his innocence had been recognized. House died of complications from pneumonia after living for many years with multiple sclerosis. So he had pneumonia and multiple sclerosis. So that's good expression. He died of complication, right? He died of complications from pneumonia, right? He died from pneumonia, right? Or sometimes he died of complications from pneumonia after living for many years with multiple sclerosis. Yeah, House died of complications from pneumonia after living for many years with multiple sclerosis. Painful. House was convicted in 1986 and sentenced to death in the killing of neighbor Carolyn Muncie in rural Union County, Tennessee. House maintained his innocence through years of appeals. At one point in 2004, the 6th U.S. Circuit Court of Appeals declined to overturn a state ruling that denied House a new trial. One of the dissenting judges, Judge Ronald Lee Gilman, was so concerned that he wrote, "I am convinced that we are faced with a real-life murder mystery, an authentic whodunit, where the wrong man may be executed." An authentic whodunit, right? The case went all the way to the U.S. Supreme Court, where in 2006, the majority concluded that House would not have been convicted based on the DNA evidence that emerged years after his trial. Right? The House would not have been convicted based on the DNA evidence that emerged years after his trial. However, House remained in prison as prosecutors said they intended to retry him. He was finally released in 2008 when an anonymous donor posted his $100,000 bond. On the day he left prison, he told reporters, "I feel pretty good. All I'm looking forward to is going home." 영어 연습반이라고요? 예. On the day he left prison, he told reporters, "I feel pretty good. All I'm looking forward to is going home and eating some chili verde and pizza. I'm glad to be out. It's been a long time." Chili verde. I'm glad to be out. I'm glad to be out, right? I am glad to be out. He was placed under house arrest at his mother's Crossville home while the threat of another trial loomed. Finally, in May of 2008-9, state prosecutors dropped the charges against him. Joyce House told reporters at the time that they were floating around here on cloud nine. It has been too long in coming. They were floating around here on cloud nine. It has been a long time in coming. That's good expression, right? This one. They were floating around here on cloud nine. It has been a long time in coming. State's director of Tennesseans for Alternatives to the Death Penalty, worked with Joyce House for years to try to get Paul House released. Later, she continued working with Paul House to publicize his story. He joined Witness to Innocence, a death penalty abolition group led by people who have been freed from death row and their families. He was pretty honest about how he felt about the way he'd been treated by the system. Rector said Monday, "It was sometimes on the salty side." After his release, House was very content to live with his mother, even though he had lost the ability to walk. He was so relieved to be out of that situation and cared for, Rector said. He loved his mama's cooking. So he was convicted of killing a female neighbor, and he stayed on the death row for 2 decades. But finally, he got tried many times, and finally the Supreme Court of America overturned the case, saying that he would not have been prosecuted, convicted on the basis of the DNA evidence. But even though he was released by the court in 2008, he was under house arrest until 2009. His charges were dropped completely by the prosecutors. Then he got help from an advocate group for eliminating death penalties, and but finally he died of complications from pneumonia, and after living so many years with multiple sclerosis, right? He said he was glad to be out, and his mother said they were floating around on cloud nine. Well, before I close this article and move on to the second reading, I would like to go over the expressions that I try to remember, right? A statement from Federal Defender Services of Eastern Tennessee reads, right? A statement reads, a statement from Federal Defender Services of Eastern Tennessee reads, House died of complications from pneumonia after living for many years with multiple sclerosis. I am glad to be out. They were floating around here on cloud nine. They were floating around here on cloud nine. It has been too long in coming. 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 Well, thanks for listening and have a wonderful Wednesday. Bye-bye.